Chapter 4, The Principal's Office. Principal Prune Wallop's office smelled like bad breath, which she had a constant case of. At Christmas time, all the teachers gave her boxes of peppermint candy, but Principal Prune Wallop did not like peppermint. The next year they tried spearmint, but it turned out she was allergic to it. Then came wintermint and listermint, but she never ate them. Instead, she handed out the little green candies to her unlucky visitors. Winger nervously unwrapped his listermint and popped it into his mouth. Boom stuffed his into his jacket pocket, where he had stuffed 13 other mints from recent visits to the principal's office. "Well, Mr. Broom and Mr. Wingingham, your teacher tells me that you were both 1 hour late to class this morning." The principal's hair was pulled back so tightly that veins pounded at her temples. "Which one of you is going to tell me why you were late?" Boom and Winger looked at each other without turning their heads. Winger bit down on his mint, then blurted, "Cat stuck in a tree." Boom cringed. They had used that excuse last week. Winger never thought clearly when he got nervous. "My sister's sick again," Boomer said. "She needed spot remover." Principal Prune Wallop drummed her long fingernails on her desk. "I am well aware of your sister's condition." She whispered the word condition, and Boom felt his face go red. Seemed he wasn't the only one who thought that Myrtle was a lunatic. "In fact, I shall send the truant officer to your home next week to investigate." That would not be good. The principal opened a rather thick file with Boom's name on the outside. Boom fidgeted and tapped his shoes together. His big toe stuck out a hole. Luckily, it was not his kicking foot. He shifted his bottom, which had gone numb. He hated this office, with its bad smell and uncomfortable chairs. "This has been a difficult year for you, Mr. Broom," Principal Prune Wallop stated, peering over the top of the file. She had pity in her voice, and Boom clenched his jaw. He wanted to kick people who pitied him. "Your rambunctious nature continues to interfere with your studies, and you, Mr. Wingingham, you should choose your friends more wisely." It wasn't Boom's fault that Mr. Jorgensen, the retired chief of police, had lectured them for 40 minutes. With his flabby chin and bulging eyes, he had said, "Boys need discipline. That's what I always say. In my days, boys didn't run around in the street causing trouble. They had jobs from dusk until dawn. If they were bad seeds, then they were locked in cellars until they were 18, then shipped off to fight in wars. In my day, if a boy broke a window, he went directly to jail." When exactly was my day? The Middle Ages? Mr. Jorgensen was nuts, too. Principal Prune Wallop suddenly looked up from the file. "Did you hear that?" she asked. The only thing Boom had heard was Winger gagging on his mint. The principal turned to her office window, which overlooked the playground. She pressed her eye to a telescope that stood on a tripod. "Aha!" she exclaimed. "Just as I thought. I distinctly heard the sound of a bursting bubble." She stood and opened the window. Big orange underwear glowed through her stretchy white pants. She had the biggest butt Boom had ever seen. With the principal's attention diverted, Winger spat out the horrid piece of listermint into his hand. They glistened with saliva. Boom tipped back in his chair while Winger looked around for a place to dispose of the pieces. Boom knew they had to figure out a way to get out of this situation. Tardiness meant only one thing, and he couldn't miss lunch recess. "Principal Prune Wallop," Boom began, "the only thing I have to do after school today is buy some fish, and then I could come back and make up the time." She ignored him. "Young lady in the green sweater," she called through a megaphone. "Yes, I'm speaking to you. Gum chewing is not allowed on the playground. Stop that right this minute. Don't you dare try to hide that gum beneath the monkey bars. You will report to my office immediately." The principal whipped around so quickly that Winger dropped his mint pieces onto the rug, and Boom almost fell backward in his chair. "Now," she said, returning to her own chair, "back to the unfortunate business of your tardiness. That hour will be made up. You will both come to my office directly after lunch today." Today? After lunch? 12:05? She had to be kidding. "But," Boom objected, with the intent of explaining that this was supposed to be his day, Boom's day. She held up her hand to silence him. "I know all about the kick the ball against the wall tournament, Mr. Broom. I am afraid that your irresponsible behavior has cost you a forfeiture. At 12:05, you and Mr. Wingingham will come to my office to work on your math skills. I look forward to instructing you." "But—" "No buts." Boom had no idea why principal was spelled with pal. She instantly moved up his archenemy list to position number 1. "Forget her. He'd go to the tournament anyway, even if it meant 100 extra hours in her office. It would be worth it. And don't try to sneak out of this, Mr. Broom. I will be watching. She tapped a fingernail on the telescope. Boom's special day broke into pieces like a spit-covered mint. On their way back to class, Boom and Winger passed the girl in the green sweater. She was taking very small steps toward Principal Prune Wallop's office and sniffling. Boom clearly remembered his first walk toward that menacing door where a sign read, "Authority prevails." "Don't worry," he said, trying to offer some comfort. "She doesn't spank," which was the only nice thing he could say about the principal. The little girl managed a weak smile. Winger started to sniffle too. "What are you crying for?" Boom asked irritably. "I'm the one who has to forfeit the game." Winger took off his glasses and wiped his eyes. "I don't actually have the $7. I bet Hurley. He's going to beat the daylights out of me." Yes, Hurley would beat the daylights out of Winger. That was the kind of thing Hurley Mump would do. And he would call Winger names like Weenie and Four-Eyed Freak. Boom knew the humiliation all too well. He reached into his pocket and found the $10 bill that was meant to buy the Broom's evening meal. He handed Winger the money. "Just be sure to get me the change." Once again, the universe had conspired against Boom Broom. End of chapter 4.